Hey there, I'm Mary.
And I'm Lindsay.
And you are listening to What Comes Up, a podcast where we have open and honest conversations from the heart about what comes up in our day-to-day and within our lives. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're glad to be back and we appreciate you tuning in. Today, we want to chat about
not having quick
fixes.
Yeah, for things. What is the long term, what's the thing that's going to stick around for a while, right? We don't want to just do something that's only going to last temporarily.
Yeah.
What is the overall goal? Like, how can we stick to that?
When we're changing our lives, and which is really what we focus on. We really, for ourselves,
self-development,
for the people we love, for the people who come into our professional sphere and we work with. So we really want to help people change their lives, and we want to continue to grow in our own lives as well and change them in really beautiful and meaningful ways, be very expansive. It was a great conversation this morning about that, I thought. But when we're on that path, lifestyle change, changing our lives, quick fixes just aren't, they don't do the job sufficiently. And I know we both see it in the work that we do with clients, with coaching, is like, we can try a temporary one and done kind of thing. The results can happen very quickly, and that progress can go away just as quickly as it came. And I know with my clients, that causes a lot of pain. Like, people come to me because they're just so tired of being in that space.
I was going to ask you for an example, like in your in the health coaching world, what is an example of like a quick fix situation?
There's tons, but I would say weight loss is one. That's a big one. That's an easy one to go to. It's very, very common. Is that people will try this big fad diet or medication that's promising all of these great results. And yes, dietary changes and medications out there can really help us achieve weight loss success. And I don't discredit any of those. I think that dietary lifestyle change is one of the most meaningful things we can do to help put our body in a safer, healthier position, that we can make changes to our eating that help keep our body safe and make progress toward our goals. But a lot of times those things are very restrictive. They're very quick. It happens very fast, and it doesn't allow opportunity and time for people to settle into new habits and patterns. Because when we're making a change, when we want lasting change, when it's like, if a client says, I want to lose weight, they either say, and I want to keep it off, or there's implied of, I want it to stay gone. Nobody wants that to come back. They want to loosen and maintain. And the way that we do that is by taking small steps, practicing patience, and giving ourselves time to experiment with new things, figure out, okay, what's working well for me, what isn't, how does this feel, with some of those like fad diets or just things just pop up and it's like, try this new diet. It can be very restrictive, and people get to a certain point where they're like, I can't do this anymore because I don't feel like I'm enjoying my life. I feel like I can't go out with my friends. I don't enjoy the food that I'm eating. I'm really burnt out on X food, whatever that might be. And it just feels there's the joy of living can kind of be taken away from that. And so by taking those small steps, instead of jumping into those splashy, quick things that can make it happen really quickly, we can give ourselves that time.
I think that's just like part of our society is instant gratification. And we think that everything should happen right away. And I mean, I think everyone's guilty of that. I know I am, and that's just with anything. I mean, materialistic things or lifestyle changes, like we want it to happen overnight, and that's not realistic. So making the small changes are gonna work long term versus maybe, I know you've talked about, like, you could see that somebody has rapidly lost weight, or they do it in a way that maybe isn't sustainable, and they fall right back into maybe the same patterns or habits,
Yeah.
and the weight comes back.
Well, and the shame comes back. There's a lot of disappointment that people express toward themselves. They feel a lot of like self-judgment and guilt and shame and criticism. And that could be said about anything. That could be about somebody who's, working on developing better sleeping habits, and they have one bad night and it comes back, or a person who's incorporating more exercise and they go on vacation and they miss a week of their exercise routine, and it's like, oh, I've undone all my hard work. I feel that way myself when I start to get in that, like, oh man, I just want things to just take off and just be really quick, and then something splashy happens to me and I'm just like, oh, I've arrived, and then when it slows back down, I start to get critical of myself. That's very human nature.
Yeah.
So yeah, the progress we can, quote unquote, backslide in progress, but more heartbreaking from my perspective is that self judgment, disappointment, that kind of stuff comes back, and no one deserves to be talked to like the way that I hear clients talk to themselves by anybody, but especially not from ourselves. So all of that stuff comes back.
Yeah. And thinking about my clients in the past, is that I don't want to say like energy work or whatever is like a quick fix. Like, there is layers of energy work and Reiki when you're going deep, but the quick fix comes in when you have someone that doesn't want to do the deeper work, and then they say, oh, I'm in need of this, fix me, kind of thing. So having energy work done, but not ever following up on all of the things that need to be addressed in the personal life, of the client. So it's really challenging and heartbreaking to watch people use external tools, practitioners, or I guess even therapy, but going and seeing healers to move past what they feel right now in the moment, but not diving deeper into the root cause of the problem. And I see for people, and I say that with compassion, because I know that when you're going through a healing journey, it can be hard for some people, especially clients that are older, that they've never like tapped into that. They've never opened, that jar to be like, holy crap, this is all like flooding back.
Social like stigma around that is adjusted, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But there are generations of folks like, in our society who grew up that they were never, that was never encouraged. It was actually discouraged and frowned upon and belittled. And so you have that moving through, shedding off that layer of social conditioning while you're also trying to heal. That's gotta be,
and what I've picked up on is this level of feeling selfish for putting themselves first, or choosing things for themselves, possibly disappointing other people, possibly creating boundaries that are not lining up with what other people see, like, are used to or think is okay. So for me, I don't think that it's sustainable, and I don't think the quick fix of seeing a healer or specialist to get the need met, like your needs met in that moment, long term is going to be a gain. Like, you're going to continue, like, if the trauma and if everything that is before
the symptoms that are coming now, that's coming up now.
And I mean, like, practitioners, energy workers, they can clear things on a deep level. Yes, we can go through, there are ways through practice that can make it better, create good balance in the energy, in the chakras, in the emotional energy body. Yes, it can get better, but are you creating the tools in your life to be able to handle when those moments arise in you again, the trauma that resurfaces when we're triggered? Like, have you established the tools over time, to be able to handle that? And that answer is no. If you're just doing a quick fix, which is really sad.
Absolutely. I mean, it's similar in like health coaching. If we go back to that example with weight loss, and a person is using dietary changes as a means of achieving weight loss, is one aspect of it. Oftentimes, when we dig deeper into it, and this is my favorite part of coaching, is working with clients who are like, okay, I'm noticing some patterns. They say, like, I recognize that I eat mindlessly at night, or I get up in the middle of the night and I'm snacking. I crave certain types of foods. I eat when I'm bored or stressed and that kind of thing. And that level of awareness of like, okay, that is one of those deeper things, one of those other, we peel the layers off.
There's another layer
There's another layer there. And sometimes there are underlying layers beneath that of trauma and things like that. And that, of course, is where we want to bring in both of our work, where it's like we need to bring in additional team members to help with this.
Yeah.
And
other professionals.
Also, we can work on navigating stress eating or cravings, eating that is driven by cravings, whatever that might be, to help change a person's life. Like, we can develop those tools. That is not relying on, okay, I have to have a very prescriptive meal plan. I can only eat X, Y, and Z. I can only have so many amounts. It's, I can eat this food and I feel in control and comfortable and confident about the choices that I'm making because I have developed a strong relationship with myself, and I recognize I can, in the moment, can say like, yeah, sure, I want to have this. I'm not going to eat it all the time kind of thing. But to your point, diving into those things is what makes it successful. Those are not quick fixes. It's not a comfortable process by any means. I mean, I know we've both gone through our own journeys with lifestyle changes multiple times. I mean, there are lots of different things we've added.
And self-healing.
Yeah.
It's not a fun road, but is struggling with all of these things that come up on a regular basis, is that easier than tapping in, like just jumping in and doing the work? I don't think so. I think that, yes, the work is hard and there are many layers to the work for people, but to think that I could spend however long on that self-care and self-healing, where that's going to get me in the long term, or am I going to keep reliving the same cycle? Am I going to keep going through the same things over and over until I'm at my end of life and I've never dealt with? Or you create dis-ease in the body because that's how the body reacts to trauma and things that we, when trauma and energy is stored in the body, that's what creates disease. Yeah.
It's like my dear sweet brother-in-law said to me when I was making that change where I left one of my previous jobs and moved across the country. I was terrified. I was like, I don't know. And I called my sister and my brother-in-law, and I just blessed them for the amount of support and guidance they offered me during that time, and all throughout, my whole entire adult life. But that time in particular really stands out. But he said to me, okay, you know how you feel, and I'm not quoting him verbatim, but he said, you know how you feel right now by staying in this position, continuing to do this, is the fear of the unknown of what's going to happen next worse than the stress that you do know. And immediately I was like, absolutely not. I cannot continue to do this for one day more. Like, this is not in my best interest. And that sticks with me anytime I make my own changes. But I also hear clients say that. They'll be like, I refuse to live like this anymore.
Right.
I have to change something.
Can I ask a question? So yes, we
Yeah.
have people that say, like you and your clients, no, I don't want to. Yes, I want to take the next step. Do you think that people that don't choose to jump into self-healing and doing the work, do you think it's because they can't see themselves at the next level, or that they don't feel worthy of being at this next level of healing or happiness? Do you find that could be?
I think yes, and I think it's case by case.
Or do you think it's fear?
I think it's a combination of things. I would say fear is one of them. Fear of the unknown can be a very powerful motivator to stay where we're at. Sometimes we feel like, excuse me, sometimes we feel like, I know this is familiar to me and I know what I need to do to get through it. And we can feel very confident and assured in ourselves because it's like, I've been doing this already. I feel very confident that I know how to get through this, to get through another day of this, one more day, one more day, one more day. The fear, I would say, that I believe is mostly there, is not having the tools that give us that sense of confidence. It's like we've developed tools to stay in this place. And it's like, I have those tools. I don't have the tools. I don't even know what step to take. So there's this overwhelm. Then this thing of like, I don't think I can be successful at this. And a lot of people, and part of what we do in coaching is kind of do a quick assessment and say, okay, what is this person saying to me? And where are they at on the stage of change? How ready are they to do this? And what do we together need to do to help move them into that next step so that they start to develop that confidence? And, that can be it can be something like saying, okay, what have I done successfully in the past? And what are some things that I pulled from to do that? And that's anyone who's worked with me, they'll be like, oh yeah, she asked that question. And we pull from that, and then really wanting to listen. And so if you're trying to figure out what are my next steps, it's like, talk to yourself. We have these conversations, and I think it was the other day you were talking about some stuff, and just the words that you were saying, things that came to me are just like, you have growth mindset, you're very proactive, you're self-directed. So even talking to people who know you really well, who are invested in your
can pick up on your
can pick up on your strengths and tell you those. Does that was a long journey to the answer of your question.
No, but I think that's really helpful.
What are your thoughts on it? What do you think?
I think that there is a level of fear. I think that sometimes when people are in a certain pattern for a period of time, like it's like the longer that you're in something, the harder it is to leave it. I think there's some of that. I do feel like there's a worthiness piece to change. For some people, I don't think it's modeled. And they're growing up in their family. So it's like, how could I strive for more? Or what is it, why do I deserve more kind of thing? Not sure where to start, feeling overwhelmed. I've had clients say, I don't know that this was a good idea to tap into these childhood, memories and things like that. And for me, I see it as like super beneficial. I'm like, we cracked open something. And I think that, unfortunately, I have clients that reach that point and they don't want to go deeper, and that's their own prerogative. Like, take care of you, obviously. But to know that is just like, we're just scratching the surface. It's like, let's go all the way back. Let's start where the journey began, and let's start to heal all of those individual parts. Just like the conversation we were having this morning, we were talking about things that happened in high school. And, our path from healing from those spaces.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, we think that we're adults now in this present life living with the emotions from the day to day, but we're still inside dealing with things as early as birth, childhood. I mean, the choices that our caregivers,
Yeah.
chose. So
Yeah. Would you agree? I want to. Would you agree that when a person says I don't want to go deeper, that is coming from a place of fear, apprehension, because they don't feel like maybe don't have the tools that they can then walk out of this space and and like tend to themselves. And it's like, this is a big thing that I might crack open, and I don't know how I'm gonna feel when I walk out that door an hour from now, 2 minutes from now, 2 days from now. And what if I'm by myself and something comes up?
right, I think people are scared of the grief.
Yeah.
Some people don't let themselves cry or grieve. I think tears are alchemized, like tears alchemize pain. Once we can cry it out, feel it, and move, we can really get through to the other side of it. It's like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You cry for 2 days straight, and you have to call in, or you have to change your life for a minute, just to allow yourself to grieve, or you are in this place of, I'm so sad, I just don't want to get out of bed today. That is perfectly normal. I know that feels scary for people because they're like, I don't want to go. I want to just stay busy, busy, busy. Let's not focus on the pain and the hurt that I've gone through. Why would I revisit that? Why would I want to bring that into my present? But the thing is, if you bring it into your present now, where you have the strength and the courage and the wherewithal to feel it and deal with it now, because your little self didn't. Your little self wasn't able to process.
Yeah.
But you as an adult carry the knowledge and the comfort of yourself to be able to say, like, I'm going to let myself feel this now. And sometimes it might not be now in this moment. You may say, I've got too much going on right now. I need to put this on pause, and I need to take it, maybe I'll create some time for myself to process this later, and that's perfectly fine. And I think it's also important to ask for support if you do need that space from your spouse or your significant other or someone to say, I need to take a beat, because or just let people know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm processing, I'm working on myself. I may not show up as my best self, or, hey, I may, need to lay in the bed all day.
Yeah. Can I tell you what as you were saying that, a list of things that came to me as you were talking about it, of like tools that a person may be lacking or not aware of that they may have in that moment when they're talking about it.
Do.
When you share all that, to me it sounds like, the permission to feel feelings. Some people may not have had the safety and the nurturing throughout their life to feel like it's okay to cry.
Right.
So there's a skill that we would want to develop. And these are going to be those steps we take, that they're not going to be quick fixes. So we have that as a skill we want to develop. There is support system. Maybe we don't know who our support people are. We might want to do an assessment of our support circle and find out who are the safe people in our lives that we can reach out to.
That you can rely on.
Yeah, so we want to, there's a skill, is like strengthening a support system. Finding tools to help ground yourself, because I know from my own work, my own personal trauma healing work, is that I was that person who didn't know what was going to happen when I walked out of my therapist's office. And there were tools that she gave me that maybe in our sessions I wasn't really interacting with, but I was definitely taking home and thinking about, and I was doing my own research. And so to figure out, okay, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. So that's the other thing, is like, what type of deep breathing exercise is going to work to help ground you? Does journaling work? Does listening to music? Is exercise? So there are all of these skills that we want to help develop as we're making these big changes and jumping into, this is truly transformational work that we're doing for ourselves.
Right.
Just like I would never tell somebody like, here's a list of all the foods that we have seen are nutrient dense and safe for people's bodies. Have a nice day. Because that person might need to learn how to time manage as far as like fitting in meal planning. They might need recipes. They might need to figure out, how do I fit this into my family dynamic? And so there's so many things. But that was great what you said, because it's like there are so many skills we can learn through these things.
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you made.
It was cool. But I just thought that was cool that you were just talking about how those steps can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
thanks
awesome.
for
letting me share that.
Of course. Yeah, no. So if you find yourself in a place of feeling like stuck or repeating the same patterns, right? Well, let me go back to what I was going to say was it will stick if you do the deep journey work, the deep healing,
with consistency,
going into the shadow, right?
Yeah.
With consistency, it will stick.
It will, yeah.
And you will develop this sense of like courage, confidence to know that I can really get through anything. It helps you to get through the day-to-day ups and downs.
Yeah.
And chaos that can sometimes be life. It really helps when you can, it's kind of like wiping the slate clean, you know, and you have more bandwidth because there's no longer this heavy or stagnant energy left in your body from past. It's like rebooting your system, rebooting your computer, wiping your hard drive, however you want to think about it, and introducing new software that now runs better. That's your 2.0 self that can show up in a different way. That is why we're passionate about what we do, because we know we've done the deep work, we've done the deep dive, we know that it's so good on the other side. And somebody that's come from severe depression, anxiety, not wanting to live, literally in my head just having thoughts of like, I mean, not trying to be dark, but like, what's the best way someone could end their life? You know, I'd just be walking the dog, you know, down the sidewalk, and I'm like, I wonder, you know, what, and it would just come out of nowhere, and it was just there, and there was just like always this gray cloud that followed me. And then when I finally just got into the deep work, and I followed my inner guidance towards the life that I knew that I wanted, to discover happiness for the first time was the most strange but amazing feeling. To be like, wow, this is what people mean when they say they're happy, and to not have those thoughts come up anymore, and to want to live and to want to be happy. And that is where my passion lies, in wanting to help other people get to that space. So
it makes me think of how incredible our brains are because of like neuroplasticity and the ability for us to rewire pathways in our brains. So sometimes people will be like, this is just how I am. I can't change because this is how I've been my whole life. And you can't make somebody who's been doing patterns for 60 years learn new things. And
can't teach a dog
old dog new tricks.
I don't think that's true.
And it is simply like, it's scientifically not true because our brain is malleable in amazing ways. And so I describe it to my clients as like, if you think about a trail in the mountains, like a hiking trail, it gets cut. There is a crew of incredible humans out there just maintaining trails. Shout out to those folks. because that is incredibly challenging work, and it's really, really important because it gives people access to beautiful spaces. So thank a park ranger and a BLM representative and a volunteer, and visit your national parks. But they cut these trails, and then the more that the people walk on them, the more well-worn it gets. That is the same way with our patterns and our habits. Is in our brain, we are walking on hiking trails within our brains. And sometimes on the hiking trail in the mountains, we see cut trail. And that's not always great. It's not always good to leave no trace. But sometimes it's really necessary because there is a fallen tree, there's danger, there's a flooded area. But the more people who cut the new trail, the more well-worn that path becomes. It is the same in our brain. And when we are making changes, we want to pick small things. So those skills that we were talking about with Lindsay's scenario, where it's like support system, time management, learning that it's okay to cry, practicing deep breathing exercises. Those are skills. Those are habits we can practice. And if we dedicate even 5 minutes to one, we don't have to do them all. Don't be like, I got to go home. I got to journal. I got to let myself cry. I need to talk to my partner. I got to get out my schedule and plan in a time to cry. I got to plan in it. Like, you don't have to do it all at once. Just one thing.
Yeah.
If we just commit to one thing and we do it every single day, even if it only takes 5 minutes, we are building that new pathway in our brain.
I want to come back to the trail analogy, because once the trail is worn, right, you may have a tree or something that falls across it, but guess what?
Yeah.
Because it's worn, it's not going to take much to clear that and keep going. But if we let the trail grow back, we don't tend to it, we don't keep going down that path, we don't stick to the things that we know, the tools that we know, it's going to get overgrown again. But if we keep on with the tools and the habits, one tree falling or something happening, we're like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Call in the cleanup crew. Let's cry it out for a minute, and we're back to business. Like, it literally does. When you rewire the brain, it allows you to move through other things with more ease.
Well, and it's really natural also along those same lines. It's very common and natural for us to step back into a well-worn path when we are overloaded, when our system is overloaded. Our body and our minds can only manage so much. Our brain can only manage so many things at one time. So when we are overloaded, one thing that clients will tell me is like, I'm not getting very much sleep. I've got a ton of stuff going on at work. I've got, it's the end of the school year is nuts. Like, bless the parents. That tends to be a time of year where, and the holidays too, but this end of the school year, people are like, I've got 9,000 things I got to do with my kids. Work is really busy. We're getting ready for vacations. There's a long list of stuff to do. And they're like, and I wasn't able to keep up with, I found myself doing things that I thought I'd worked, I had changed. And it's because our brains can only take on so much. So that is not a failing on anyone's part. It's our brain is shifting around, shuttling the stuff around and being like, okay, what's the priority right now? And we might slip back over. Recognizing it and acknowledging it are incredible strengths, and calling it out and saying like, okay, this is what I'm recognizing. That takes the power away from that previous path and gives you the chance to step back on the new
redirect.
one.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you feel like you want to touch on? I feel like
No, I'm good. You good?
I feel like I touched on everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for our new podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I hope that you found this helpful. We would love to work with you if you would love to create a better, sustainable path for yourself.
Yeah, if you're
towards
looking
healing.
to make lifestyle changes and whatever that looks like for you. We both do coaching with people in different capacities. So check us out on wellwithinstudio.com. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you get updates on when things are coming out.
Yeah, Mary's got some cool stuff coming up in September.
On YouTube. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Take good care.
Yeah, be well.
How do you think that went, babe?
I think it went great.